guys, my name is Katie and I work for the award-winning publishing company How to Become, and this video is for the process of joining the MI5. So working in the MI5. Joining Her Majesty's Secret Service is no easy feat, and only those who prepare fully will be successful. When most people think of MI5, they immediately think spy, they think Secret Service, they think James Bond. Is this the correct depiction of MI5? Are we subconsciously drawn into certain views? This short video will not only take you through the process of joining the MI5, but also addresses some of the top things to consider, what to expect, and give you some indication of what real life in the MI5 is actually like. So unlike most jobs, the MI5 requires discretion. It is crucial that you remain discreet when applying for jobs in the MI5, and if you do get the job, you will need to remain secretive. So only close family members should be told about your position, okay? So this is imperative. No one else should know about your occupation, okay? So the security of your nation and the safety of its people could depend on you being discreet about your position in the MI5. So remember, it's called the Secret Service for a reason. So remember, secrecy is key. So the process. So here is a basic outline of joining the MI5. So to begin with, you will be given an online pre-screening test. Then you will need to complete the MI5 Competency Questionnaire and MI5 Verbal Reasoning Assessment. You will then have to go to the assessment centre where you will be given other written exercises and assessments in order to complete and pass. Then you will need to complete a telephone interview, and again you will need to attend the assessment centre for written exercises, role plays and group exercises. And finally, you will be given an initial interview. So how to apply? So firstly, you'll need to make an account on the MI5 website and fill in some of the background details. So you'll need to provide the organisation with information including your national insurance number and how long you have lived in your current residence. So following this, you'll be given an initial application form to fill in, and this will test you on whether you meet the basic entry requirements of the job, along with providing extra bits of information about what you might be expected to do in the job role. So after your application has been accepted, you will be invited to take an online verbal reasoning test. So the online verbal reasoning test will assess your ability to evaluate information that is presented to you in large passages of text. It will consist of 9 passages, each with 4 associated questions. And these questions will require you to take information directly from the passage and draw conclusions from that information. So you will also be asked to identify answers which accurately summarise the material from the passage and answers which state correct assumptions. Your task is to answer all of the questions based on the information from the passage only. So here is an example. So the concealed carry law refers to the act that permits a person to carry a weapon in public as long as it is carried in a concealed and discreet manner. The carry law has proven to be a hot topic in the United States, where people often question whether or not it should be legal to carry concealed weaponry. One of the most commonly cited reasons for carrying weapons from pro-gun activists is that people have a right to defend themselves against the government. These people are, quite frankly, deluded. In the unlikely event that the government did decide to turn against its citizens, a handgun will not be much use. These people will have to reconcile themselves with the uncomfortable truth that a physical resistance against the US government would be virtually impossible. The majority of studies have shown that gun laws reduce violence. Some people argue that gun control is against their human rights. Some argue that it's not guns that kill people, it is people that kill people. That might be true, but people with guns kill more people than they would if they didn't have guns. All over the world, people are angry, depressed and lonely. But there aren't mass shootings every few weeks in England, Spain, Portugal and France. The reason for this is because people with a desire to inflict mass damage don't have quick access to the weapons needed to do it. If you're an American, it's as easy as buying a packet of cigarettes. So the question here is, which of the following is not given as a reason against gun control? A. People have a right to defend themselves against the government. B. People kill people, not guns. C. Prisoners would be granted access to firearms. D. Gun control is against human rights. So as you can see, the answer is C. Prisoners would be granted access to firearms. So at no point in the passage does the author speak about the effect that gun control would have on prisoners, while he uses all of the other statements as counter-arguments. Okay, so answer options A, B and D are mentioned in the passage, whereas answer C is not given as a reason against gun control. Next we have the Assessment Centre Part 1. So if you are successful in your application form and online verbal reasoning test, you will be invited to attend an assessment centre at which you will have to take a series of written exercises. So your report writing. So in this section, you will be asked to create a report, proposal or letter based upon information provided to you. In your report, you will be required to elaborate upon the information you've received and come up with logical and sensible solutions to the issues listed. So report writing is an important part of MI5 Intelligence Officer's everyday role. As an employee of MI5, you will be constantly filing and submitting paperwork, written reports and proposals that will be passed on to senior management. A great proposal letter could be the difference between your proposal on how to deal with a particular case being accepted or rejected. So you need to show MI5 that you have the ability to think about situations logically and assess all of the information in front of you in order to make a good, solid decision. So an in-tray exercise is an assessment activity that requires you to put a number of suggested activities in the order that you perceive they should take place in. So it's an attempt to simulate a specific situation. So typically, you play the part of the employee who has come in either first thing in the morning or to a first day in a new job. There is a list of activities and events that you need to tackle. So you need to read each item and decide on the order and how you will deal with each item. And you may be asked to give reasons for each selection. So case study. So a case study involves answering questions based around a specific scenario in which you play a senior role. So you'll be provided with written data, some of it conflicting, and will be required to analyse the data in order to come to a sensible decision. Once you've reached a decision, you will need to put this down in writing and provide clear logical reasoning for why you've made it. So in a case study exercise, you need to sift through the data to establish what is relevant and what is not. In essence, this is very similar to the report writing exercise. The difference is that you are not addressing a letter to anyone, you are simply writing down what you would do to resolve the situation. There is also a possibility that you might be put into groups for this exercise and asked to come to a conclusion together before presenting your findings to a panel. If this is the case, then you will normally be given one longer case study to work with rather than a series of shorter ones. So the Assessment Centre Part 2. So if you are successful in your telephone interview, you will receive an email inviting you to attend a second assessment centre. So this will involve a more rigorous testing process than the initial centre that you attended earlier in the process. So you will be tested on report writing again and be required to pass both a role play and group exercise. So whereas the other exercises you will have completed up until this point could be based around any situation, the final assessment centre will ask you questions that relate directly to the work you will be doing at MI5. The topics will be intelligence based and you will be expected to respond accordingly. So the role play. So during the role play exercise, you'll be given 5 to 10 minutes to look over a document containing information about your role and the type of situation you will be dealing with. So you'll be expected to take notes. You will then enter a room containing an assessor and a role play actor. And you will have to respond to the role play actor in a way that A, is consistent with the role that you've been given, and B, meets the core competencies and requirements as outlined by the employer. The roleplay exercise will normally last around 10 to 15 minutes, depending on the behaviour of the roleplay actor and how well you deal with them. Next, you have the group activities. So the second part of the assessment centre consists of a group activity where you'll be placed into a team or group with other candidates. So the size of your group could be anything from 2 to 8 people, but generally will consist of around 5 or 6 people. The type of exercise that you are required to perform will most likely involve an activity such as looking at a case file and coming to a team conclusion on the best way to go about handling the information that is contained within the file. However, you could also be placed in exercises where you are indirectly competing against the interests of other members of the group. For example, you would all be given a role and conflicting advice on how to handle one particular situation. The group would then have to decide upon the best course of action. So in the group activity, your assessors will judge you based on your ability to work as an individual member of the team and also how well you work in harmony with the other members of the group. So finally, the interview. So when applying for the role of MI5 Intelligence Officer, for example, you will have to pass 2 separate interviews. So one of these interviews will be held at the assessment centre itself and the other will be taken at an undisclosed location at a later date. So both interviews will be fairly similar, but you can expect the second of the interviews to be considerably more comprehensive than the first. You could still be asked any number of the questions listed in this chapter in either the first or second interview, so make sure that you are 100% prepared before the first interview. So during the interview, it's absolutely essential that you tailor your responses to meet with the core competencies. The majority of interviews begin with a getting to know you phase. This is where the interviewers assess your personal attributes against what they are looking for in a candidate. In a sense, you can break your interview into 2 separate phases, the getting to know you phase and the competency phase. In the second phase, you'll be directly tested on how well you understand and can demonstrate the core competencies required for the role. So one mistake that many people make is to concentrate too much on the second phase and ignore preparation for the first. This is a critical error, okay? Remember that the first phase of the interview sets the tone for the second phase. If the interviewers get a terrible personal impression of you, then they simply won't be interested in how well you exhibit the core competencies. Remember, MI5 are not just looking for a capable employee, but someone who fits within their organisation. So here is an example of an interview question. So can you give me an example of a time when you have had to make a difficult decision? So here is a sample answer. Now I'm not going to read this out now, but you can pause this video and read through this yourself, and it gives a great idea of how to go about answering the question in relation to core competencies and how you should tackle these types of questions, okay? So just pause the video for a minute, have a read, and see the types of things that you should be including in your answers. Okay, so that completes this video, and if you would like more information on joining the MI5, we do have our comprehensive guide, and outlined here are the chapters in our guide and what the book contains. That's it for the MI5 joining the process. For more information, please visit howtobecome.com, subscribe to the channel for free, get up to date with more of my upcoming MI5 videos. If you do have any questions, please drop me a message below and I'll be happy to get back to you as soon as I can. I wish you the very best of luck. Take care. Bye-bye for now.